What's your living well is the best revenge story? On a more transcendental note, whenever you take a punch in life, just remember this lesson. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the one who'll decide where to go. Dr. Seuss. Be loved. My husband got another woman pregnant in the middle of a planned move across country prompted by a job offer for him. My job transfer came first and I packed our 18 years of combined stuff into boxes, ordered a pod and set off 2,200 miles away, leaving him to just pack our stuff into the box. 2 weeks into my new job and new house, he signed the lease on. He calls me up and tells me he fell in love with another woman, not the pregnant part. He then sells literally everything I packed on eBay, Facebook, and Craigslist before I could get back. He even tried to sell my dog and 3 cats, but my friends stopped him. I managed to salvage 10 boxes of family heirlooms and my pets. Everything else was gone. To pay for his new life, he sued me for alimony and the house and my retirement. I had no money for a lawyer, so I answered my divorce pro se. I got tipped off on the baby, and that ended the alimony retirement piece of my divorce. He did get the house. I got my freedom, but I was nearly homeless by the end. No money and 4 months in my job laid me off and eventually closed. I was a mess. Decided to go back to school with loans. Managed to get by for 2.5 years until I graduated, summa cum laude. Got picked up by a lot of companies but ended up following my heart and moved across country with my new boyfriend to a house by the beach where I joke that I have become a trophy girlfriend at 46. I'm currently looking at going back to school to finish my PhD and cross off another bucket list item. Life is more than good. It's plush. I've managed to be a breadwinner for 18 years and now I don't need to work, so I volunteer and do gig work on occasion. I grow artisanal weed and started to paint as hobbies to keep myself busy. Far better than working for corporate America, which I did for most of my life. My ex. He married his baby mama and had a son less than 2 months after my divorce was final. He exclaimed that he finally met the love of his life on Facebook. I wondered why he stayed with me for 18 years if I wasn't. She left him less than a year later with his son. He's now a single dad at 50. No real career. Alone. Living paycheck to paycheck. She's already remarried. And that's what happens when you just move on and live your best self instead of worrying about the baggage you left behind. Was cheated on after 5.5 years together. He was a lousy partner, but I was young and had zero self-esteem, so I figured that was the best I could do. He gaslighted me to no end and lied about pretty much everything. He had been cheating on me for at least a year, so the relationship was already dying anyway. We split up in March and I had met and started dating someone in June. Within months, I moved in with the new guy 1,800 kilometers away after being the first in my family to graduate from university. I don't think my ex ever finished high school. I recall him doing a victory lap, but unsure if he actually graduated, and last I heard he was working as a server and trying to break into the acting world. My husband, on the other hand, is intelligent, determined, hilarious, and treats me like a queen. We have good jobs. I'm medically retired now. Bought a beautiful house, traveled, got engaged, got married, and are living happily ever after. It's been 12 years and I still can't believe I found someone so wonderful. My ex and I broke up a few years ago and I was pretty devastated. Since then, I've bought a condo, got a dog, got promoted, traveled, and am generally living an awesome life. He got a one-night stand that he didn't even like pregnant and now lives with her and their son and is unemployed. I think I won. I've been criticized, shamed, dismissed, and shouted down by trolls my entire career because I'm a feminist woman who writes about sexuality on the internet. Getting a book deal felt like a huge you to them all. Found out my ex-boyfriend of 5 years was cheating on me for months and got the girl pregnant. Needless to say, I left. I stayed working my dream job in ICU at one of the top hospitals in the area, lived with my parents, and so I was able to pay off all my undergrad loans and save a ton of money. I ended up traveling all around the world without him guilting me for leaving him. I made new friends because before it used to be just me and him and no one else. I started horseback riding and doing yoga. Things he used to say were a waste of time and laugh at me for showing interest in. I lost a bunch of weight. Got some new piercings that I love. I also went back for my master's degree. He, on the other hand, he'd always said he couldn't find a job that he was passionate about, so he'd stayed on his mom's couch for well over a year searching for him dream job. But when the baby was en route, he had to suck it up and got a job working at a local hardware store. I don't think there's any problem with working retail, but I know he looked down on it, so it makes me giggle thinking of him working in a smock. His mom let him stay until the baby was born and then kicked him out and made him live with the girl and baby. He used to pride himself on his athletic ability, but he definitely let himself go and gained a lot of weight. He had such a close relationship with his family, as did I, but once they found out what he did, his relationship with his mother and younger brother definitely changed. But the best part was that I went to see his mom a couple months after the baby was born and we talked for a while. She told me she wants all the best for me, and that she wished I could have been her daughter-in-law, but she understood why I couldn't stay. Then, she told me how before he moved out, he would just lay on the floor crying some days. Not gonna lie, that made me smile. Probably when I split up with my ex-fiancé after he cheated on me with someone at his place of work. I lost a load of weight through stress and treated myself to some new clothes. I got a long overdue haircut. I got a new career, a car, bought a new piano and a house because I no longer had to financially support him. I bumped into him about 9 months after we broke up when everything was going well for me. He had no job, looked like crap and had the worst dye job I've ever seen. So bad I actually doubled over with laughter. He scuttled off looking miserable and I walked away feeling like I was lucky I was no longer with him. He dumped me for being poor, living within my means, and said I could never afford to live in a luxury app with him. He was right about the luxury apartment, but I ended up getting a gorgeous app in the same city we were looking at. With 0 roommates, he has 3. Parking for my new car, he was giving me shit that my previous car was a POS. And a deck. A full-size deck. It's unheard of for my part of the city. None of the luxury apps he looked at, in his price range, even included a balcony. If he could see me now driving through town on my way to sunbathe on my deck, lol. When I was 15, I had a boyfriend who was 17 and more experienced than me. I ended up losing my virginity to him, and once we had sex he pretty much ghosted me. As in, he literally stood me up on all plans, barely responded to my texts, and stopped talking to me altogether outside of school. Literally, the only time I could even see him was at school, and there he would basically gaslight me about whether or not he was ignoring me and made me out to be overly needy. A friend of mine from youth group told me that she saw him making out with some other girl in the school library, which he denied, then broke up with me when I didn't believe him. Later, he and library girl officially started dating. I was totally devastated because I was so naive and attached so much of my worth to having him as a boyfriend. Older, lacrosse player, handsome, etc. And of course, since I was involved in church stuff at the time, I thought that it was my fault for being easy and that if I had held out longer he wouldn't have dumped me like he did. I spent the next few months dealing with one of the worst depressive episodes I've had to this day. 10 years later, I had finished my second year at a Tier 1 law school and visited my hometown for a few days over the summer on my break. My mom and I went to a cafe for lunch and I saw him walk in with his mom. He looked rough, like massive beer belly, greasy hair and skin, receding hairline, and was wearing a ripped t-shirt with nasty shorts. It was the lunch hour during the work week, so unemployed, underemployed, and his mom paid for his sandwich. We made eye contact and he promptly looked away. Honestly, I hadn't thought about him much in a long time at that point, but part of me wishes that 15-year-old me had better guidance and role models growing up so that I wouldn't have gone so long genuinely believing that I lost part of my value as a person for having slept with this person who turned out being such an asshole. I have a disability that is aggravated by repetitive motions like typing. I asked my work to accommodate my disability, but they did not, and my condition deteriorated until I could no longer work. Fast forward 8 years. I now receive workers' compensation, SSDI, and have a disability retirement. In addition, I sued them for discrimination and won big-time 8 years back pay with interest too. My boss and HR got punished. So now, instead of working my 40+ hours for a bunch of discriminating dickwads, I work on me. I lost 30 pounds, took the dollar and went on a nice long vacay, and read Reddit. Granted, I have to deal with my disability, but I had that even before then, and now workers' compensation has to pay for my medical bills and prescriptions because they made it worse. Laugh is on them. I'm here to read comments. Love a good living well story. One of my best friends since middle school was a super high achiever growing up, and her mom hated me. My family is much lower class than hers, and while my friend was being offered whatever she needed in terms of push to succeed, I was being left home alone while my parents both worked and partied from a young age. At one point when I was 12, my friend's mom told me to my face that she didn't like me, thought I was disrespectful, I was going nowhere in life, and that I was going to be a bad influence on her daughter. Friend and I still stayed close through high school and wound up going to the same university. We both had our struggles in the first couple years. I had an abusive relationship. She got into drugs. Both of us took a hit in terms of grades from that stuff. I pulled out of my slump, finished my degree, and started working. Friend took an academic break. I saved up some money and went back to grad school. Friend returned to working on her BA while living in a trailer her uncle owns from the 80s. I got a job in my new field post-grad school. Friend quit school again and started working full-time at a bar, then got a DUI. Pre-COVID, I got invited to friend's wedding, so I flew back home for the occasion, in addition to getting to support one of my oldest friends in a huge life milestone. She's mostly sober these days, and that's worth celebrating even if I do secretly hate her choice of husband. I got to see the look on her mom's face when she finally recognized who I was. Then got to tell her about everything I've done since finishing high school. The master's degree, the six-figure job, the move across the country, my own marriage, and on top of that I got into fitness and I'm a full 5 dress sizes smaller than I was at age 17. After my ex dumped me, I decided I'm going to do everything I want to do and can afford. I lost 20 pounds because I climb mountains. I travel all the time, and anytime a friend wants to meet up for a social event I say yes. Honest to God. I look at photos of him and he looks miserable, and every single time, it just makes me smile. The best revenge in the world is fulfilling your own dreams and living the life you always wanted to live. When I finally broke up with a very controlling and toxic boyfriend, his last words to me were something along the lines of, "You will always be stuck as a single mother without the same freedom as me or any chance to be successful." Fast forward 6 years later, he's contacted me numerous times to hook up even though he's with another person he shares a baby with. Told me how unhappy he is in the relationship and feels stuck. Still works for the company, same position. I had gotten him into and lives with about 4 other family members in a less than desirable area. Myself, I moved 800 miles up north to pursue my educational and career goals he did not support, which is also a much more desirable place to live, less pollution, lower cost of living, beautiful scenery, and less people. I am in a committed relationship with an amazing and supportive man I currently have 2 kids with. From what I can tell via social media, at least one of my former bullies has been unsuccessful with MLMs.